Hello, everyone. My name's Duncan White. I'm your host for today's podcast in the IFSJ Leaders in Fire and Safety series. I'm delighted today to be joined by guys from Rely, and I'm coming to you first, Daniel. How are you, my friend?
Very well, Duncan. Thank you for having us.
It's an absolute pleasure. So, tell the listener what Daniel Stewart does at Rely.
Oh, well, I am a director of operations here at Rely Innovations, which is a life safety company founded for innovation and improving life safety of all of our customers.
Excellent. And J.R., coming to you, my friend.
Yes, I'm the senior technical director for Rely Safety, and I've been working for about 45 years in the industry, dealing with hazard analysis, product design, testing, application service, and firefighting. And so that's my role here.
That's a pretty impressive longevity within the industry there, JR. And I'm looking forward to learning as much as I possibly can over the next 20 minutes or so talking to you guys. Um, Dan, we look at primary markets and the needs and the problems that led Rely to develop the new Rely FX line. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Certainly, yeah, the needs essentially came from the U.S. Navy's request. So we have some contacts within the U.S. military, and they did reach out to us and said, hey, we're looking for some extinguishers of a certain type and a certain design. So we took that information and did some deep market research and determined that there was a surprising lack of development and innovation in that particular space. This niche of highly specialized industrial portable extinguishers. Along with that, we also saw the change in application of foam extinguishers and the removal of the AFFFs from a lot of the systems and portables around the world due to the fluorinated carbon issue, and that's a serious issue. So we took that under advisement as well and started a development plan for this series of extinguishers. And of course, we added to it as time went on. We started off with 4 models to address specifically the Navy's requirement, and then ultimately we ended up with a total of 10. If you include the loaded stream, 11 models being launched in May of this year. That's where we started this journey.
Excellent, and it sounds like it's been an interesting one with the current model line at 11. So when you look at that environmental protection and sustainability following the AFFF issues, it just goes to show that Rely on Innovation are certainly taking that part of its responsibility very, very seriously. JR, sticking with the Navy and the military combat requirements, how did that the influence of those development with the FX product line, and what design improvements came out of that process?
Well, obviously, understanding the important role that extinguishers often play in combat ships, subject to sometimes hostile environmental and exposure conditions, presented many unique design challenges. And some of those ultimately ended up really generating the types of fire extinguisher features that were also very beneficial in offshore applications like mining, agricultural, heavy industrial, and emergency response situations. So, while the Navy had some very unique requirements and very unique issues that they wanted to address, in my experience of having worked in all the various different other types of applications, became very apparent that these were features that industry could really use also. And so when we started our development of the water and the foam and the dry chemical and retention brackets, we saw a real opportunity to make sure that this would be beneficial not only for the military but also industry.
Exactly, very, very impressive. And talking of impressive, I reading about the world's first USCG listed and approved synthetic fluorine-free foam extinguisher. So what was the milestone important when it comes to changing NFPA and the environmental requirements? I'm going to stick with you on this one, JR.
Sure. I mean, obviously, it was a big obstacle, and again, everybody's known about the fluorine issue and the foams, and it's been a topic probably well over for 10 years. But it's gotten a lot more press and a lot more emphasis over the last couple of years. And so that was one of the things, was obviously identifying a suitable replacement that would be fluorine free, have no fluorine related PFAS or PFOS additives. So the first objective was identifying what today industry and codes are identifying as a synthetic fluorine free foam, or an SFFF agent that not only didn't contain any of those environmental or health related exposure concern items, but also was able to meet the new DoD, or Department of Defense, standard for acceptability, as well as the performance that was going to be required to come from a hand portable extinguisher and meet those same objectives. And as we got into it, obviously there was a lot of things we had to deal with because a lot of people, historically foams are used in many different applications other than a hand portable. And with those design parameters, they have a lot of things that are much more, I don't want to say stable, but more constant. A lot of that testing is all done at 10 GPM, 10 gallons per minute, under set testing conditions. With a portable extinguisher, like a hand portable 2.5 gallon foam extinguisher, you have 100 psi inside, 2.5 gallons inside of a pressurized container. And obviously, when you start your discharge, you're starting at 100 psi, where you're going to have your best range and your best flow rate and expansion and drain time. But as you continually discharge through the 60-second discharge interval, that's a constantly changing dynamic. And so that presented some very unique challenges that a lot of people hadn't been able to overcome. And through a lot of testing and work over a 2-year period, we figured out how to address not only the agent premix stability issues inside of a hand portable fire extinguisher, but also how to basically across the whole discharge get an effective firefighting stream that was able to meet the requirements necessary for NFPA approvals, compliance, as well as Coast Guard compliance, and meeting various application needs that the old AFFF and FFP foams used to fulfill.
Yeah, and I'm interested to learn a little bit more about the U.S. Coast Guard requirements. I've been pretty vocal in the past about the number of different codes and standards we see both within mainland US as well as across Europe and the wider world, that when you break down the codes and standards, the vast majority of them are saying the same things, but with some little anomalies. And so, how does the Coast Guard approvals sit in the what I call the mainstream ULs, FMs, British standards, etc.?
Yeah, well, the Coast Guard obviously has a lot of impact and a lot of drive in around the world also, but specifically in the United States and those areas. But when you get into a lot of your international marketing, you've got SOLAS, and there's a lot of other marine type applications that are out there. The Coast Guard has some very specific testing requirements besides to meet in a fire extinguisher. So we had to meet all those, not only from a performance standpoint, but also even a hardware standpoint. One of the unique things is the Coast Guard has some very unique corrosion resistant requirements. And those basically require stainless steel pressure vessels to go through an extended exposure to salt spray environments. Historically, Coast Guard approved extinguishers have to meet a 240-hour salt spray exposure test standard criteria. When it comes to stainless steel, they're required to be externally painted, and not only the extinguisher, but the bracket is subjected to an advanced level, which is basically 4 times or 1,000-hour exposure period. So we had to obviously meet all that also with our hardware and the agent to be compliant. And one of the things that the Coast Guard did just recently do is come out with a directive this last December that was going to be a directive that, for Coast Guard approved vessels and stuff, that they were going to be required to replace their fluorinated foam agents with non-fluorinated agents like the SFFF this year. So as new ships are coming out and as the ships are getting their inspections, they'll be replacing or having to replace those fluorinated foams with a non-fluorinated model like we have.
Excellent. And it's when you look at the U.S. Coast Guard, the SOLAS standards, again, very similar requirements under a different standard. Daniel, I'm conscious that you've been sat there very patiently listening, and I found it intriguing listening to what JR's been telling us with the launch of the Rely FX. What is the early feedback that you're hearing from the industry, and what does the launch represent for the future of portable fire protection?
Well, I think our goal initially was to satisfy those military requirements, which we've done with some of the cylinder selections we've made and the pressure and feature selections that we incorporated in this line, and then bringing those features to the overall market, the portable extinguisher market. Showing up at trade shows, advertising, talking to industry contacts. The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, with a lot of people who have been in this industry quite a while have basically said to us, it's about time somebody fixed some of these issues that have existed in the market for decades, right? And fire safety is a very cautious group of people, and as they should be, right? Change is often difficult, and the technology that's been out there for decades works, right? If it's supposed to put a fire out, it puts a fire out, right? But there's been few companies that have put money into increasing the ratings and increasing the proficiency of the extinguishers, changing the ergonomics of the units, protecting the units from exposure or damage, and experimenting with different materials to give us better exposure control when these devices are put on a ship or on an offshore rig or on a transportation truck or in a chemical plant. If you don't do that, you see what happens today as they degrade very, very quickly. And that's a safety issue, and it's also a service and a cost issue. So the overwhelming feedback has been very, very positive from the industry. So we hope that follows with the sales. But by and large, the opinion is we've done what we needed to do.
Well, and from what I've been hearing and what I've been reading about the way Rely Innovations go about their task, it's hugely positive. And one of the having been in the industry for almost 40 years, 30 of which as a career firefighter, the one thing that is constant within the industry is that there are a core of people that don't like change. We've always done it that way. We'll always continue to do it that way. And I refer to those as the dinosaurs, and they like to stifle innovation because they're afraid of what they're going to see at the opposite end of it. But through education, through companies like your own that are prepared to put their heads above the parapet, prove that they've got something that's worthy of change, then it certainly is the way that we move forward and we bring the next level of protection into the market. JR, I'm going to come back to you because we talked about the requirements for the stainless steel cylinders. But in terms of the Rely FX dry chemical models and the use of the aluminium cylinders that have been that meet the Department of Transport specification in respect of high flow performance and extended service, what are the key advantages of that?
Well, yeah, there's obviously a lot of them across the line that we focused on. So I'll try to break that down, that answer down into the two categories, because when you look at the design objectives and what we needed to improve upon or what we wanted to improve upon and what we wanted to accomplish. Let's take the water types, which are basically the water, loaded stream, and the foam extinguisher model. Not only, and again, a lot of people utilize a stainless steel cylinder and stuff, but just the components. What we did is in the internal components, because of the Navy objectives and the shock and the vibe type stuff that we had to, advanced levels that we had to do for the military, we have a full stainless steel siphon tube with stainless steel welded screens and stuff, versus industry standards were historically plastic. Industry standards up to this point in time also, to hang a water type extinguisher, they took a small metal strap and bent it and tack welded it onto the cylinder. Well, obviously, if that gets damaged or corroded or broke, the extinguisher has to be replaced because you can't repair those types of pressure vessels. So we eliminated those problems by going with high grade, marine grade stainless steel handles, levers, stems, siphon tubes, nozzles, things of this nature, that we eliminated those types of problems and came up with a way of addressing that so it would address some of the military issues. I know we talked about getting a UL, a ULC, and a Coast Guard approval. I don't want to say it was easy, but that was kind of the easy objective. What we really had to deal with is some very advanced vibration and shock testing that the military wanted. And if you do a little bit of research online and you look at some of the shock testing that some of the new vessels are having to go with, it's phenomenal. And one of the things that we went when we started testing our first round of testing, we used pretty much heavy duty industry standard brackets and things like that. And we found that they could not pass these tests. Nothing on the market could pass these tests. So we had to go back and redesign the bracket and the siphon tubes and the hardware to address all these issues. And just to give you an example, a normal vibration test for UL extinguisher approval or Coast Guard approval goes through a vibration and retention test in a bracket. And that's a pretty good test. It's always been for historically. But when we did the military testing, the advanced testing on that, I literally, when I walked up to the extinguisher in the being subjected to this vibration, I could not make out any features of the fire extinguisher or the bracket. It was nothing but a red blur. That test was so excessive, just to give you an example. And of course, our hardware held up and passed through that. But when we got done with that, that wasn't the end of it. Then we had to go through and subject our extinguisher and our bracket to the shock testing that the Navy wanted. And these are new tests. These are tests that have never been done before. And it subjected the fire extinguisher to impact retention and operation to test it for impact and vibration and operational conditions under 200 Gs. I've never seen a test like that. That literally has torn some of the other metals and stuff apart on the brackets. So we had to design the bracket and go through this testing, special durometer rubbers on the rubber bumpers and the way we attached them to the brackets, how we did the corners on the brackets, how we did our adjustments using 316 marine grade stainless steel. We obviously passed the test. And when the test was passed, we also went out and the units operated flawlessly. So this is the type of conditions that some of the industry in the mining industry and construction industry and other applications out there, that they should be able to welcome this stuff. So they're less likely to see any types of product failures because of that advanced testing. So that kind of just touches a little on the water types that we did, but we also had to slide over and deal with that type of stuff on our dry chemical line. And that's where we went with the DOT 3AL 1800 specification cylinders. That brought a lot of different things into play that normally, to my knowledge, there is not a rechargeable dry chemical extinguisher in the world that has ever been able to accomplish this. Because these cylinders now, by using this, they're actually non-shat, which means they go through a special testing process with a 50 caliber. They have to take a 50 caliber bullet and not fragment or throw any pieces off for safety of the operator. So these are non-shat cylinders, but more importantly, being aluminum, they're also non-magnetic. And again, that's getting a lot of attention right now with the current situation in the Gulf area there right now, non-magnetic with mines and stuff like that. But also, it's lightweight, heavy duty, and corrosion resistant. When you get most of your fire extinguishers, when they have a painted external finish, they can pass the salt spray test. But once that paint gets chipped or scratched and that steel is exposed, it's going to start to corrode. And if you've ever, yeah, exactly. And if you've ever, been in some of these ships or been offshore, you see these extinguishers. A lot of times, their service lives, they're lucky to go a few years. But these same aluminum cylinders utilized on other types of applications in those same environments, in some cases, are going over 30 years. So they're getting 5 to 6 times the service life out there. So it was a very logical way to go when we wanted to target a unique dry chemical extinguisher. It had the performance, the safety, and the corrosion and extended service life that we wanted out of these extinguishers, was to switch over to those cylinders. And to my knowledge, there's nobody out there that has ever done this before. And so we're very happy with the results that we got out of it.
That was absolutely fascinating, and I'm sure that you are over the moon with those results, because listening to the way that you went about the task and sourced the materials and went through the whole process, just the vibration and the shock testing in relation to that bracket was fascinating. And if it stands the test of that, if it's stood static on a shop floor on a bracket where there's no vibrations, it's going to do it's just a job there as it is anywhere in the marine world. But I think one of the things that's really come across to me with this interview is the fact that Rely Innovations have not stopped at just getting it right. You've exceeded the standards. You've put together a product that is fit for purpose. It does exactly what it says on the tin, and you've used your knowledge, experience, and understanding of the industry, as well as the specific needs of the military to produce something that you can be rightly proud of. And Daniel, that must make you feel good.
Yep. Yep. Well, absolutely. I think, JR talked about the technology we utilize to bring these things to market. We didn't talk a whole lot about the actual performance of these units. I've not been in the industry as long as JR, but I've seen a few fires. And I've seen how these extinguishers perform when going through UL testing. Even our high flow units, particularly the high flow units, which we did focus a lot of effort on, some of these have ADB ratings as a high flow unit. They meet performance criteria that has never been met before. And JR can talk more about that from a special hazard standpoint. But the overall performance of these things are unlike anything on the market. They're built like tanks. Literally, these things are brutes, and they're designed to withstand exposure in conditions that normally basically destroy other extinguishers in the field. So that was our purpose. Very happy that we're able to manufacture these products here locally in Wisconsin with the help of our partners. And we look forward to pushing these out to more and more people.
As Dan mentioned, on the performance end of it, like I said, I've been in the industry a long time. I sit on a lot of the NFPA committees. Obviously, I'm the NFPA industrial section rep on the NFPA 10 committee and a couple of other ones. And so I'm intimately familiar with the applications and the code requirements. And so one of the things is to basically come up with a high performance dry chemical extinguisher to meet industry needs and military needs that had an exceptional range. And some of these extinguishers are pushing some of the best ranges I've ever seen in my life out of a portable extinguisher, extended ranges that are going out well beyond anything else on the market, and the flow rates. And the flow rate's very important when you get into flammable liquids, pressure fires, gravity 3-dimensional, and obstacle fires, because that's what's really putting out the fire. So we were able to pull a balance that, to my knowledge, nobody in the world's ever been able to do in a 20-pound extinguisher. We're actually getting better than 30-pound performance out of our 20-pound model, which obviously is a great reduction in weight and ease of use. But we're getting the necessary rating, which has the duration, but also the flow rate that's over 1 pound per second. And it's the best of both worlds. Historically, on most products, you have to buy one extinguisher to get the rating you need for meeting a certain coverage requirement or rating requirement. And then when you have the hazard where you're filling or pressure fires are possible, or gravity 3-dimensional, you need to buy a separate extinguisher and place it there to have a flow rate over 1 pound per second. We were able to do both in one model, have that rating and have the flow rate necessary to address just about any type of flammable liquid burning configuration you might see that would be necessary in an application for compliance. So that was a big objective. I know, Dan, I know when we started with the test project, even a lot of the approval agencies, people, when we threw out the objectives, I know I got the squirrel eye that it was impossible.
Yeah. They said They shook their head with, no, you'll never do it. You'll never do it. And that's what you need to tell JR. You'll never do it.
So we didn't have the constraints that a lot of manufacturers have, where they, we got to use this valve, or we got to do this because this is what we can produce, or this is the machinery we got. We were fortunate when we started at Rely. We started with a blank sheet of paper, and we were going to build a factory so we could do what we needed to do. So we were able to look at every critical function of a fire extinguisher, from the siphon tube to the valve body, to the valve stems and the outlet and the couplings, and optimize every part of that design to get the best possible results. And obviously, if you look at all the different models and what we have in some of those spec sheets, you'll see that you won't find any other products, definitely in a 20-pounder or definitely in a 30-pounder, that can match these things. We were very successful.
It's and again, when you start with a blank sheet of paper, you can look at where others have done some good things, where others have done some bad things, and you can tweak it. And I very often use Dubai and the UAE as an example, where when you look at 50 plus years ago, they were riding camels. They're now driving Cadillacs, but they were able to look at the best things around the world and put that into their infrastructure, and look at them now. They're thriving. And gentlemen, what was interesting, and my American friends listening to this wouldn't believe it if I didn't say, we say aluminum, you say aluminum, we say aluminium, but we all know what we're talking about. So it is interesting. I regularly say you need to speak English and call it aluminium, but we come to an agreement. But that's just a little bit of fun. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure for me to listen and learn from you two guys over the last half an hour. Before I draw this to a close, Daniel, anything else you want to add to the listener?
Well, I want to express my appreciation for bringing us on, Duncan. I think right now we're at just the beginning stages of actually pushing this out to the market. You'll see, obviously, there's a lot of marketing literature that's being produced right now. We're trying to get some attention. But I appreciate your audience is listening to our spiel, and hopefully we can satisfy some of the requirements out there that people are looking for.
I'm sure you can, and please, when you push anything out through LinkedIn, just tag me, Duncan J White, and I will forward, because it looks as like you've got something here that's going to make a huge difference within the marketplace, and also for safety of the occupants of the various places they're going to be. JR, really appreciate your time, my friend. Anything you want to add?
No, I think the new line obviously represents something that's different that is going to provide some long-term purchase advantages. Something that when historically a lot of people buy an extinguisher and they don't make it through halfway through their anticipated warranty, and they have to replace them. These products are designed to make that and go beyond it. And they also, one of the things I'll just bring up, and I kind of forgot it, and I wish I would have mentioned it a little bit earlier, but one of the unique things with that DOT specification cylinder that also comes to play, that everybody that has fire extinguishers and is familiar with, having to all the service requirements that go with fire extinguishers, we focused obviously on the shipboard needs and tried to minimize that service requirements. And one thing that comes with that DOT 3AL 1800 cylinder, because it's a specification cylinder and it has a 10-year hydro, it's exempt from the 6-year internal exam, which is a very costly and presents a lot of logistics on offshore applications and shipboard applications, because they have to remove them every 6 years, empty them, replace them, or recharge them and put them back into service. These models, without having that requirement, and they're the only rechargeable dry chemical models that I'm aware of in the world that are exempt from that NFPA 6-year internal exam requirement because of that specific cylinder utilization. So it's something that when they look at long-term investment in service, reduced service, I think there's a lot of things come to the table.
Yeah, and what I very often say to procurement professionals is that you need to look at the lifetime cost and not just the purchase price, because very often you see people going in because oh, that was the cheapest model, it does what it says, but when you look at as you say, they don't outstand and last their warranty, and you very often, if you buy cheap, you buy twice. So by looking at the overall lifetime cost of the product rather than looking at the upfront cost and do some very simple mathematics, you don't need to be a genius to work out that the expensive option up front may well be the cost-effective option over the long term. So, yeah, quite rightly what you say there. Gentlemen, it's been my pleasure. I'm Duncan White. I have been your host, and I've had the pleasure to talk to J.R Nerat and Daniel Stewart from Rely Innovations. And like me, if you're interested in learning more, then please go to relyinc.com, where there is a plethora of information all about the work that these guys are doing. Gentlemen, it's been my pleasure. Take care.